Hello, Jennifer. How are you doing today? What brought you in here today?
I'm kind of feeling really down. I just I've been feeling really badly about myself, and it's got to the point. I don't know. It's just overwhelming.
When you say feeling bad about yourself, can you tell me how so?
I just Recently I've had people say, give me compliments. I'm graduating from social work school, and I guess I've been accomplishing things, but it's really hard for me to believe that anybody's telling me the truth when they say nice things.
Mm, I see. Can you tell me the last time you felt this way?
Well, I got a good evaluation in my internship. I'm doing supportive counseling with homebound seniors. I got a great evaluation, but I just kind of almost felt like she was lying to me, and I felt like it didn't matter, it didn't mean anything.
Mm. So when you received this praise, what were you thinking?
I just felt like it just felt fake. I just feel like fundamentally I've screwed up in my life, and that no matter what I do, I'll never be able to make that up.
What is it that you think you screwed up about?
Well, when I was a teenager, when I was 18, my mother got sick, and I was there for her, but I wasn't, because I was a teenager. I kind of fledged. It's like my father had died a few years before. I wasn't really taking it too seriously. And I kind of was, a crazy teenager. I was always leaving home. I was always going off cross country and doing all these other things. And, she died 2 years later. And I never got, even though I talked to her on the phone, I never got to say goodbye to her. And no matter what I do as a social worker, I feel like my past always haunts me.
Mm.
Because I screwed up one of the most fundamental relationships one can have.
I'm sorry to hear about your loss. Can you tell me, when you received this positive evaluation last week, how did it make you feel?
Well, I guess initially I felt happy, but I felt like the compliment, like my desire to be in social work, it just feels like I'm trying to have this corrective experience, but fundamentally I just feel like I'm not a good person.
Mm. And when you have these feelings that you're not a good enough person, what sort of things do you do? What was your response to feeling that way?
I guess I get this feeling of just shame in the pit of my stomach, and it's not like I'll do anything. I just block out all the good stuff, and I ruminate on things I can't change.
Mm. So how do you, so it seems to me that when you receive this praise of any kind, you feel shame over the inability to have made amends with your mother, and you invalidate the compliment and you tell yourself you're unworthy of the praise. Does that seem to make sense?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Mm. What I'm wondering is this about your mother's judgment of you or your judgment of yourself?
Well, I guess at the end of the day it becomes about myself. I think she understood where I was at. I read some of her diaries after she died, and she was always sad I wasn't around, when I'd take off, but she seemed to understand. And I reached out to her friends. My mother was much older. My mother would be 90 now, and I'm 42, and I think her friends didn't understand, and when I tried to reach out to her friends, they wouldn't talk to me, and to me that validated all the feelings I already kind of had. There was just a few friends, but it hurt.
So whose judgment are you worried about the most? Your mother or your relatives? Or your own?
I guess I just didn't want her to feel sad and feel alone, and because I work with so many older adults who feel sad and alone, I see them and I think back to that.
When you think back to that, is that when the feelings of shame arise?
Yeah.
Yeah, because shame is a very internalized emotion, and it can be very unhealthy. And a more positive way to kind of interpret these events with your mother could be to look at it as more of a regret. Regret is something that is somewhat akin to shame, but it's not as internalizing and
What do you mean by internalizing?
it's something that it becomes almost a part of you. It becomes a part of how you perceive yourself, whereas regret is regret over an action or something that you did that was externalized.
Okay.
So how does looking at it as something that it was a decision that you made at one point in your life, as opposed to the shame of feeling that validates that you're a terrible person. Do you see? Well, how do you feel about the difference in looking at it at those two aspects, looking at it in that different way?
I guess it makes it a lot less physical, because when I feel shame, I feel it just gnawing at my insides, literally.
And do you think that it may have been comforting for your mother in her final months to see how you had become such a strong, confident, and independent woman?
Yeah, I guess I've never thought about it that way, but yeah, that would make sense. I think she did feel like that, but I'm so busy hating myself for it that I forget.
I would like to see if maybe we can work towards, in the next few sessions, instead of feeling as if you left your mother, I was wondering if you might be able to think that you could consider that time as a safe space where you learned how to live independently and find your inner strength. Do you think that's something that you could consider?
Yeah. I guess I could, because when I think back to that, I just, perhaps it did help me. You're right. I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's something that maybe in time, and we can think about the cognitions and the connections to your feelings a little bit further, but I'd like you to reconsider that the time away from your mother was something, I want you to reconsider that instead of thinking that the time away from your mother was something that you took from her, I'd like you to see if you can consider it that it was a gift that your mother gave to you. That instead of you kind of depriving her of your time and your attention and your care, she actually gave you a gift where you got to discover yourself, and
Right.
you were able to
Trust me
find
quite a lot.
some inner strengths in yourself. Because those inner strengths are apparent to me,
Yeah.
and they come across, and those inner strengths seem to have sustained you. So would you say that they've sustained you after the death of your mother?
Yeah. Yeah, because when she died, that was it. I didn't have any other family. It was
Well, I want to thank you for coming here today, and I wanted you to, I have just one assignment or task I'd like you to think about and do over the coming week before you see me again. When you receive compliments in the future, I want you to see if you can restate the compliment to yourself shortly after you hear it. And I want you to write it down, and I want you to bring it into the session. And at the same time, I want you to be thinking about how would your mom respond to that compliment? Do you think your mom would have agreed with those compliments? How do you feel about that assignment?
Yeah, that sounds good. Because, when I talked about her friends who kind of shunned me somewhat, they were her friends who were also, generation ahead. And also a couple of them hadn't even had, not to say hadn't even had kids, but maybe they just didn't understand about the kind of craziness of adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about it, all the different things that I did, I think she understood. And when I think about my last week's evaluation that I got, I think she would have felt very proud of me and that I was actually deserving. So yeah, it's a nice way to put it.
Good. Well, I'd like you to consider doing that over the next week, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and have a good day, Jennifer.